Ladies and gents, your boy Usbudanator, and welcome to it, man. This is Rolling with Budanator. I know, we've been quiet for a very long time, but yeah, we're back at it, man. Listen, based on the title of the video, today we're going to be talking about the 10, well, I don't know if it's going to be 10, but the top interview questions to expect, especially as a geology graduate going to an interview. A lot of you guys have been DMing me, asking me what sort of questions should I expect when I go to an interview, especially when it comes to technical questions, because we've never been to the industry, so I understand. I also had the same questions, like what are they gonna ask me, and you get nervous and all those kind of things. So today we'll be talking about that, because I did do some sort of a survey where I went and asked a few graduates who've been through the interview processes in different mines and stuff. And they came back to me, they gave me the top questions that they were asked, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, But yeah, before we do anything else, please don't forget to do the most important thing, man. That's to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe, share this video to as many people as you can, especially those it's going to help, you know what I mean? You never know. And also, if there's any question that we've missed that we didn't discuss here, please do go to the comment section and write them down there, all right? Because we're all here to help each other, that's the main thing. That's what we're here to do. All right, let's do this. See. Question that you should expect, that is always asked. It's irritating, it's annoying, it's a cliche, but it's always been asked. That question is, tell me about yourself. All right, so I know a lot of people, it confuses them, like, where do I start? What do I say? What shouldn't I put there? What shouldn't I say? How long should it be, and stuff like that. But the tell me about yourself for me is very, very easy and basic, and you can prepare for it. You can prepare very well for it, and you should prepare for it. Don't go there without preparing for it, all right? It's one of the HR questions that they're going to ask you. Actually, the first question they're going to ask you. The most important thing for me about telling me about yourself is give them as much as possible about yourself, right? Especially, and the most important thing for me there is that how you package it. Package it in such a way that it's a timeline, right? Where you don't just say this and that and that and that and that and that and that and that, and then they get confused. Okay, when did that happen? Why? You know what I mean? Just give them in a very nice sequence. Where, for example, where I would start, if I was a geology graduate right now going to an interview for an internship or an entry-level job, I'll definitely start with my matric year. To say, in 2014 or in 2013, I matriculated at Carlton Jones High School. You know what I mean? So that already gives them a picture. Okay, this guy graduated or matriculated at this particular year at this particular school, So that gives them something to work with. You know what I mean? They know. Another thing that's very, very important, I think, to mention first, actually, is where were you born? Where were you born? Where you grew up, for example. That's important, especially in the mining industry, because they need to know, are you from the community or are you from outside the community? You know what I mean? That's also very, very important. Sometimes it's also important to mention whether you're single or married, but I think that's also not really applicable at this stage. It's mostly applicable when you're applying for more senior roles, because they need to understand your family structure. Are you married? Are you single? Do you have kids? And stuff like that, because they need to understand in terms of stability. I think, for example, I mean, if there was a job post, right, and maybe it's more of a senior job post or whatever the case might be, like a supervisor type of job post, you want to see between this guy who's a young guy who doesn't have kids and responsibilities versus this guy who's got kids and a wife. Between him and this guy, who would I choose? I'll choose the guy with the kids, the family, because he's more stable. He won't just up and leave tomorrow when there's another job vacancy elsewhere. Because this one doesn't care. He's gonna go wherever the money is at, which is fair. But the other guy, he won't just jump and leave. You'll have to first consider flip. I have kids who go to school. I can't just up and leave and take them to another school. So those are the things that they look at. But that's a story for another day. Right now, we're focusing about tell me about yourself. So please do mention where you're from, where you grew up, the school, the high school. Now, if you, let's say you're currently a student and you're going to a Vac Work interview. When it comes to high school, yes, I'd go into detail and talk about, okay, listen, in grade 10, I got an award for what. In grade 11, I went for swimming. In grade what, I was an RCL, I was school leader, head boy, whatever. I'd mention all the achievements and everything that I participated in. I'd go deep when it comes to high school because literally that's all I can say. You know what I mean? You need to go deep when it comes to your high school. But I mean, right now, if you're a graduate and you're going to, if you're a graduate right now and you're applying for an internship, I don't think you should dwell too much about high school. We don't really care. As long as we know you matriculated, yes, fine, you matriculated at this particular year. Now, when it comes to matric, I think another thing that's important, give them a story as to why, what made you interested in studying geology, So give them a story to say, listen, I'm from a mining town, or my dad is a miner, and we always had these conversations, or he used to tell me about this, or he used to bring stones at home and I would have a look at them, and then I started having an interest as to how did this rock form, and then I started Googling and whatever, and then I started falling in love with it, and then I started researching what sort of subjects they want, or maybe there was a career expo, or maybe there was some a career day, what function, and then I was invited, and then someone told me about geology, and I started being interested. Give them a story, give them a story as to why in Matric Year or grade 11, you chose this particular career path. So include that as part of your tell me about yourself, right? It's okay, in grade 12, I chose geology because of 1, 2, 3, and then in 2014, I enrolled at this particular university, say University of Johannesburg, for geology, and so on and so forth. See, timeline, 2013 matriculated at this particular school, 2014 first year. Now you carry on. What did you do in varsity? I did 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then you say, okay, in 2017 or 2016, I graduated in 2017 or 2018. I then did my honors, and I specialized I specialized with hydrology, or I specialized with mining geology, or I specialized in environmental geology, GIS, whatever. My project was focusing on this and that, ecosystems, blah 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 blah. We had to do this and this, you're telling them a bit about your project, because obviously your project gave you some sort of exposure as to certain skills, like maybe you worked at the lab, you analyzed some data, you did GIS, you did this, or these are certain softwares that you were exposed to. So obviously your project at your honors year sort of gave you some sort of exposure. If there's any symposiums that you went to present in, mention that. I went to present at this specific symposium, we're in front of professors, blah 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 blah. So that's basically tell me about yourself at this moment. If you want to include certain things like I'm an enthusiastic young boy, add that. Listen, throw it in. But all I'm trying to say is that include the most important things in your tell me about yourself, and include them in a timeline sequence till the end, till now. Say, okay, listen, I'm looking to get into this industry because I want to get practical experience. I want to get into the industry and actually see what you guys are doing. You know what I mean? That's tell me about yourself in a nutshell, according to me. Okay, another question you can expect is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, right? Obviously, your strengths is the most easiest one. You can say, I'm punctual. I'm punctual. Okay, that's the only one I can do. I'm punctual. I meet deadlines. There's a lot. You can go on and on and on. I'm sure your strengths, especially if you're in varsity. I think varsity is the best place to explore yourself, to get to know yourself, because you work with groups, you work with people, assignments, presentations. So you get to know, Philip, I'm not good when it comes to presentations, standing up in front of people. I stutter. You get to see that, or you're good at that, or you're good at being a leader, or whatever. You get to see where your strengths and weaknesses are. So know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and then with your weaknesses, when you mention them, I think the most important thing is also to mention how you've been working on that specific weakness. Another weakness, I don't know if it's a cliche or what, but another weakness that people usually say is that I'm a perfectionist. right? Being a perfectionist can actually be a weakness, because someone who's a perfectionist actually annoys me, because they never finish their task actually, because they do something right, they do a task, they finish it, but you know what, they go back and they double check, triple check, they check 1,000 times just to make sure that everything's done, instead of them moving to another task. Yeah, so that's basically what I hate about, perfectionists, man. They just never finish their task. So instead of moving to another task, what do? They focus on that specific. So that can be a weakness, right? So you can say, okay, that's my weakness, but this is what I've been doing to work on that weakness. So I think that's very, very important, because we all have our weaknesses. You can say, this is my weakness, but this is what I've been doing to work on it, and this is what's been happening. The most important thing about any HR questions or any interview questions at all is that you need to give practical examples, right, about your life, believable practical examples. So if they ask you a question, it can't be a yes, no type of answer. Say yes and justify giving practical examples, to say, do you like mango? Yes, I do. And then you explain using practical examples. You could say, yes, the day my mom gave me a mango, I even like the juiciness from it. Give practical examples, what I'm trying to say. Another question that you can expect, especially from the HR questions, is that have you ever been in a conflict, right? Have you ever been in a conflict, and how did you resolve it? They always ask that question. And basically, obviously, they're trying to see how do you resolve conflict? How do you handle conflict? Okay, again, you must use practical examples, right? You can't give them a scenario of what happened, a scenario that you Googled, guy. You must give them a practical example of what happened in your life where you were in a conflict, right? So you say, okay, this is what. So you give them a story to say, okay, this is what was happening. Where maybe in a group assignment, in varsity, and someone had to present, or someone had missed a deadline, or there was a chaos, or whatever the case might be. Give them that situation, that scenario, to say basically what happened. It must be. I think they say it's a star. I think HR people call it the star. You must use a star format. I forgot what it stands for, but it's called a star format, where it must have, from the beginning till the end, it must have, the most important thing to include there is your involvement, where a team member, or you're a leader. What was your involvement in that? What was the problem? What was supposed to happen? What was the task at hand? And what was supposed to happen, and what went wrong, and how did you guys resolve it at the end? And the most important thing, what was your involvement in that? They're trying to see that. So you have to give a practical example of what happened, what went wrong, and how did you handle the conflict, in that situation. I usually say, whenever there's a chaos happening around, right, I always take myself out. I always zoom out, because if you're part of the chaos and you're also emotional, if everyone is fighting and everyone is emotional, everyone is stressed, everyone is shouting, everyone is angry, and there's different emotions, you can't think straight. It's impossible. You're gonna make irrational decisions. You're not helping. So the most important thing is to come out of the situation, literally zoom out. That's what I do. I literally zoom out and try and figure out exactly what's wrong. What's wrong? How can we calm down the situation? How can we fix it without actually being involved in that specific problem? Zoom out, try and think logically, then come up. That's the best time to come up with a solution. That's how I deal with it anyway. So tell them how you do it. How do you resolve conflict? Even if there's two people fighting, how do you resolve the conflict? How do you resolve the conflict between the two colleagues that are fighting? How do you resolve the conflict between the two of them? Okay, another question which is similar to the previous question is in terms of, I don't know how they word it actually. I just thought of it now. I just know how to word it in. But basically it's about how, if you currently working right now, right? You're hired, you're working. And then you come across a problem at your workplace, right? You come across a problem. How do you resolve that problem? Again, practical examples. So how I answer the question, I always say, I try to solve the problem myself first before escalating it to my supervisor, my first direct supervisor, right? Then if he cannot solve it, then I escalate it even higher, to the second line. If that person cannot solve it, then I take it, so line by line by line. I don't skip my supervisor and go straight to the CEO and ask the CEO to help me with my issue. You know what I mean? I don't skip this. Those people are there for a reason. In fact, I'm also there for a reason. So I have to first solve it before I actually take it higher. You know what I mean? So they're trying to see, every time you have a problem, are you always going to run to your supervisor without solving it yourself? Or are you actually going to try to solve it? And then if you go through land, then that's when you go, So be careful how you answer that question. It's just trying to see what kind of, it's basically trying to check your personality and your character, what kind of person you are when it comes to problem solving. Now, when it comes to technical questions, they're not going to go too much into detail because obviously you've never been into the industry. They just want to see what exposure do you have? What sort of exposure do you have? What understanding do you have when it comes to geology or any particular field for that matter, So obviously you're going to ask questions like, why did you choose geology, right? Which is something that you probably have covered in your tell me about yourself question, but try to expand now on that. Why? Give them practical examples. Why you chose geology? What was interesting about it? What's interesting about this industry, right? Another question that's very, very important, very linked to that is doing research about the company that you've applied to work at, right? Do research. Know what's their vision, mission statement. Know that vision, mission. This is what they're trying to achieve. Know their values. It's very, very important when it comes to the mining industry. The values, obviously the values will always include things like safety first, accountability, we respect, those are values. You need to know those values. Some of them have 5 values, so you need to know all the 5 values. So you cram those and come and tell them, because they might ask you a question. If you don't know the values of the company, it means you're not really interested in this company. At least know the CEO, man. Know what kind of mining they do, just for interest sake. When it comes to technicality, know what kind of mining do they do. They do long wall mining, sequential grid mining. What sort of mining do they do, and what is that kind of mining? What is sequential grid mining? What is long wall mining? What is that? Just get a bit of understanding from that. I mean, you've never been there, but at least have an idea, have a clue. Okay, what does that mean? Know what commodity it is. I know people who've been to interviews and they don't even know what they are mining there. They don't know. They have no idea. They just know, okay, this is a mine. Which what they're mining, they have no idea. So at least know what they're mining. If they're mining gold, and if they're mining gold, is that the only thing that they're mining, or they're mining something else like uranium? They're mining something with it, because there's always like a byproduct. So what else are they mining? Are they just focusing on gold, or is there anything else that they're doing? Is there any projects? Maybe so check on their website. They always write these things. Is there any project that they're busy with? Maybe at the moment, just for interesting. So those are things that you need to do, man. Do some research about the company. Very important though, like I said, they want to understand the exposure that you've had. So if, for example, you've always done practicals in varsity, what sort of practicals you were doing? Okay, you were doing identification of minerals, you had to do some field mapping outside, field mapping, you had to do some lab work, analyzing of data, you maybe did some GIS, talk about that. That's what they're interested in, that to see what sort of exposure you've had, or you did Vac Work, or you were volunteering in a specific company, what were you doing there? So that's part of technical questions. Structural geology is very, very important because you're going to be doing a lot of mapping. What's a fault? What's an intrusion? What's this? What's that? What's a true depth? A strike? Things like that. Just know your technical, structural terminologies. Understanding that. And then lastly, know South African geology. Know their stratigraphy. When you do your research in the website, check there by the geology section to check where in the stratigraphy are they, what are they mining, what's their ore body like, what's underlying and overlaying their ore body, things like that. Just do your basic research when it comes to that. Sometimes in some mines they'll even throw a rock at you, or not throw a rock at you, they'll give you a rock for you to identify and tell them what sort of rock it is, or, so is it metamorphic, sedimentary, and you know, what type of rock it is, what rock is it, what sort of minerals you see in that rock, things like that. They might give you that. So and they will give you a rock that's from that mine. You know, they won't give you so at least if you did your research in terms of your stratigraph, like where they, then at least you'd know, okay, it should be a metamorphic rock. You know, that will help obviously. So yeah, I think those are basic questions, man. Those are literally the basic questions I can literally think of that you should expect. I mean, things like core logging. If you did core logging as well, tell them about that. How do you log core? You know, where is core from? How do you know? But don't go deep. Don't go deeper than that. I'm not even gonna go deeper than that. All right, man. That's the end of the video. I hope I've covered all the questions that are important and relevant for interview questions. But yeah, if I've missed any questions, like I said, please do leave them on the comment section below. Also, you can also check out Olweti Mvelo. I think she goes by Olweti M. She's basically an HR recruiter, but she does a lot of crazy videos where she gives you all that information about HR questions, man. How to conduct yourself in an interview, what sort of questions to expect and stuff like that, man. She covers all of that. Do check her out. I'm gonna leave the link of her videos or YouTube channel and Instagram and all that. I think she's also on TikTok. I'll leave that on the description. Do follow Olweti Mvelo or Olweti Am. She does that. She was also on the channel, man. We spoke to her, I think it was last year or the year before. Spoke to her, asking her about how to create a CV, what should you put on your CV and what you shouldn't put on your CV. So that's also covered there, man. So yeah, but without wasting any more time, please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share the video, and I'll see you guys on the next clip.